You got to have a why. The why isn't a playbook from a management company or a previous golf course or what a pro that used to do or anything like that. The why is actually it's organic, it's personal, and it typically comes from a very unique and a very incredible person. That then now the golf course is the vehicle to that why. You eliminate, and I remember that Marty kind of said this and was misquoted. You eliminate the profitability. What he meant to say and what happens is you eliminate the individual who is profiting off of this business because make no mistake, this is a business. It is a game, but we have to be sustainable. So we run this like a business. But again, no one's trying to recoup a return on an investment. There's not a bank loan outstanding or anything like that. We're truly being able to make decisions 100% mission driven. That is very, very difficult. We're very incredibly fortunate to be able to do that here.
Welcome to the Backdrop Untold Stories in Golf. I'm your host, Matt Considine, here with our co-host, the Professor. Professor, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited about today's show. And also, I'm just back in love with golf this whole year. I've just been back in love with playing it all the way to the point I'm actually taking video of my swing, something I've never liked to do my whole life. Taking video of my swing, pumping to my boy Nico, pumping it to our boy Blake, getting some feedback on the swing. I'm actually working on some technique changes.
Do you actually watch it? You're not the vanity type. Do you actually look at it, or do you just record it and send
I
away and then read
I
feedback?
don't I don't like watching it because I it's not vanity at all. I hate it every time. It's like the papers I write in my job or anything. If I read them, if I watch my swing, it's just like nitpicking. That's ugly. Need to change this. Need to change that. So I try not to ever watch my swing. It's more send it off to who I trust, get their feedback, then look at it based on their feedback and try to see if I can make changes.
You know, I'm in the opposite realm right now. I'm in love with golf. Definitely loving the season. We're in the heart of it. But I'm trying to play less golf swing. I'm just playing get it in the hole, baby. Like that's really I'm trying to get away from as many swing thoughts as I can. I kind of went a little too far. It's all about balance in life and golf. But I'm definitely trying to wipe the slate clean and just say, all right, you got some good fundamentals back. Just get that thing in that hole. Figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna drift a little too far into the technique, right? But that's okay, right? It's like get the technique dialed in and then, yeah, learning to get back into whether it's Zen golf or be a player or whatever mindset you ascribe to.
You know,
Finding a way to get back to that when you're actually under the gun and wanting to golf your ball.
And I was talking to somebody about this too. Like some people just love the golf swing. You know, some people love golf architecture. Some people love to compete. Others just love the golf swing. And I don't think it's a wrong thing. Like, yeah, to play better golf, I think there are those tropes of, be an athlete, get in the hole, don't have too many swing thoughts. But I was talking to somebody inside New Club here in Northeast Ohio, and then they just love geeking out on the swing, and that's an okay thing. If that is one of your deals, like so what? If it helps you play better or not, if you really enjoy the mechanics of it, and you enjoy the depth of going in the golf swing, do it.
Yeah, that was Ben Hogan, right? Ben Hogan just
There you go.
loved the golf swing and, waxed on about it and used very difficult read sometimes if you look back on Hogan talking about the golf swing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we might drift into more golf swing talk today on the episode, but I hope not, because I have a lot of questions for our guest today. Tremendous booking professor. I'm really excited to talk to this gentleman, Brian Conley, coming on the show. He runs the park in West Palm Beach. There's so much I love about that place. I have not been. So before we get to Brian, professor, I do want to get your, a few minutes on your experience there a few weeks back. But his background in both private club golf, mission-driven public golf. Brian was the general manager over at Bobby Jones in Atlanta. So if you're a New Club Atlanta member, you actually have Brian to thank for our weekly game that we still have there today. He was my first ever interaction there with Bobby Jones. And that's another place that just I adore for so many reasons. And the park just seems to be taking this model to a new level, professor, what they define as open golf and doing it in a meaningful way. I can't wait to talk to him, man. This is going to be a fun one today.
Yeah, I'm gonna get all my words in on this opener because I know once he comes on, and it's gonna be your show, and I'm just gonna sit back and let you 2 cook. Man, I gotta tell you, I don't know, I could talk at length about the park. The golf course is phenomenal, get that out of the way. Honestly, it might be of the OG Gills designs that I've played, it might be my favorite of all the ones
Mm,
I've been to.
that's saying something.
Really felt like you're down on the sand belt of Melbourne in different spots. So just full compliments on the golf course. But what I comment on, I would say in this opener here before we get to Brian is, yet there's a few golf courses that just have a sense of place that you go to. And this can differ, but the ones that have stuck out to me over, say, the last decade, Goat Hill, Sand Hills, certainly Sweeten Cove. I think the park is then right up there with as soon as you step on property, it just has this, you could just feel the ethos, the vibe, a sense of place. It knows what its identity is. It knows what it's accomplishing, and it's just doing that in spades. And obviously with the park, I wish I had the scorecard here. We brought up open golf and what it says on the back of that scorecard about that. You just there and you're just looking around and it's just a vibing community. Everybody is just vibing there and there's all walks of life and just so many different characters there and they're all relaxed, having a blast all around golf. And obviously it's got a great layout, great setup with different food options, hangout options. It's truly one of those community gathering spots and just executed well, which obviously then always speaks to the leadership and the people that are involved. We always said it about Sweetens. Why is it what it is? Yeah, it has a great golf course, it's cool and all that, but the people make it, and it's clear that that's the case with the park.
It's
I just
a
got a real quick shout out to amazing logo, I wanna get that in. I violated I'm not allowed to buy anything in the pro shop this year. I violated that at the park, got Claire a wonderful pair of socks and got myself a head cover. Shout out Duck and Cover Golf, a buddy of mine's, head cover company. So be prepared to spend some money in the pro shop when you go there because I don't know who did the logo, but it is a bang up job.
well, merch sales probably do benefit too from just contributing to something, right? Contributing to
That's
the
right.
mission
So I
of
had to
that
buy
place and the
something.
operations behind it. Guilt free, professor. Spend away. I know you're on hiatus for the merch game for a bit, but that's okay. One thing I want to comment about your list of courses there. What I find so interesting about the group you just laid out, if you really think about it, they were each of those were innovators in kind of their model in a way, right? The one first of one of one, and there's more now in those similar models, but I think the park is that as well, and so I'm excited to get into that today. I think yourself and everybody else that has been there that I know, they always come back and say, man, every city needs a place like this, and I'm sure that may be true, but I also feel like it's a little bit of a dodge because the question I keep asking is, well, how do you actually do it? How did they actually do it? And is it a special case exception with the park, or is there something? Is there pieces of the model that we can take across the country, or is it the whole thing you can kind of put into any city and be successful? So I think Brian's reputation is unusually good management, so that's probably part of the playbook. But just super pumped to learn today, man. This is gonna be great. We'll talk about the park.
Yeah, this is definitely why we do this show, episode today, I think.
Is there any other teachings for us, Professor, this week before we dive in?
Yeah, have you been in a flow state recently? Any
All the
any
time,
recollection? All the time?
every day, sun up to sundown. No,
I know you're
so,
lying on that one.
sometimes doing the dishes. Weirdly, I feel like I'm sometimes in a flow state. Is that
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah, that's absolutely possible.
We got a lot more dishes now with our three little ones. I mean, they stack quickly. So
I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine. No, so I'm starting to do a deep dive on time and how we experience it. And obviously, flow state is part of that. But it is time, one of the most fascinating aspects of our experiential lives, just because our perspective on it can vary across cultures. And then our individual experience is entirely subjective. So, next couple podcast recordings, or at least sporadically, I'll probably have a lot of time facts. The one I'm going to start us off with today: plants can tell time. Right, so we're all familiar with this. Plants, right? They might move with the sun, or think of flowers, how they open up in the morning and some flowers close in the evening. So you might think like, okay, it's the light that's causing, right? The light's hitting them, so they open up. Then as the light fades, okay, that signal's closed down. Well, scientists explored this to see if this was light. And the thing is, if you lock these flowers in dark rooms, so fully closed rooms, zero light coming in, they still will open and close at a circadian rhythm that they have internally. So why does that happen? Well, there's actually a molecule within flowers that does absorb light. And what happens is this molecule exists in two forms. So as it absorbs light, it transforms into a different form. In the middle of the day, you have 50% of each form. Well, then once it becomes dark, one form starts to transition into the other form. And once that balance gets so far out of whack, that signals to the plant to open back up to allow light to come in and transform that molecule back. So that's why if they're in a dark room, they will go through that process, but only for so long because eventually the molecules haven't got rebalanced out and then they'll stop opening up altogether and the plant will die. So, yeah, plants tell time.
There's
And
circadian rhythms too.
that's right.
I wonder if they struggle with if I took a plant with me on a plane overseas, would they struggle with jet lag the way I do? Do I have to like sprinkle some melatonin on it to get in the right rhythm?
I think for research, we should test this, and we should probably do that during the Open next year when it's back at St. Andrews. So get the bag drop credit card ready because we're going over there for science.
For the bag drop. It's for the bag drop, of course. All right. Well, thanks to our partners at Titleist for today's show. The all-new Pro V1, Pro V1 X offer the greatest combination of speed, spin, and feel in the game, as we all know. But Professor, do you like a line on your ball? Are we drawing?
I did, but since our interview, our recording with Chris Wilson, I have gone back to like using the line, but not looking down on it. So it's like face backwards. So I still see it rolling. But right now I'm looking at just the top of the ball naked, just trying to feel myself putting.
That is so funny you say that. We obviously spend too much time together. But after that episode, I did the same thing too. I'm using a line, but only on the back half because I want to visualize that ball going in the hole, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7:30, whatever it might be. But the all-new AIM golf balls from Titleist, do you know what AIM stands for? Not just aiming, it's alignment integrated marking. So Titleist said, you know what? There is science behind this. We're going to dive in deep. They're engineers, they're scientists. They took a look, and sure enough, there's a lot to it. So there's a variety on, if you go over to Titleist.com, you're going to see a variety of their new AIM technologies, the AIM 360, the AIM Performance, AIM Velocity, AIM Enhanced. And it's really just how your eye sees that line, how you like to interpret the ball going into the hole. Go check them out over at Titleist.com. All right, Professor, let's get on this show. Brian Conley, welcome to the Bag Drop.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And Professor, I'm with you. Naked golf ball, no lines.
Look at us.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually goes into the putter too. Circles and lines, everything. I'll just look at the ball and say, is that really looking where it's trying to look? Yeah, never pull the putter back if I had to look at lines and all that stuff.
Love it.
Do you think that's a proxy for field players?
100%.
You strike me as a field player, Brian.
100%. Yep. Feel when I'm not playing by feel, which I don't get to play very much, I'm not usually going to be playing too good. When I'm playing well, it's usually just playing by feel. Just no practice swing, step up, see ball, hit ball.
See, I'm a self-proclaimed field player. I just believe I suck at lining up to a ball. So I try to use what I can to align myself and then let the field step in. But teach their own. Brian, we've been looking forward to this one for a while. We shared on the intro how special the park is. I've not been, but I've been told by everyone, including the professor, just that it feels different. And I don't think they just mean the top 100 golf course you guys got now, or the lights, the lit up par 3 course. I think most of the time what I hear in their voice is that the social temperature feels different, that the place itself, the people walking around, Professor mentioned in our intro, just the diversity of folks and this kind of community gathering point. And I'm curious, when you started shaping this thing, and we'll get to kind of how you ended up to it, because I heard that's a good story, but when you started shaping this thing, what were the non-negotiables for how you wanted people to feel when they showed up? You know, that first interaction with your place.
It's really just one word, 3 letters. The word fun. It's so simple, and like a lot of people use it. It's very hard to live by. It seems like it shouldn't be, but that word resonated from the very first conversation, the first phone call I had with Seth, to I can go outside my office right now and find any employee, and they'll tell you it's one of our core values. You almost can't make a mistake if a decision is made based on that little word. And fun is different to everybody. Like, some of us take it a little too extreme. Some people, you might find something fun that other people find boring. But if you find something to be fun on your own personal level, there's not a lot that can go wrong. And then you don't have the barriers that we so many times put in front of ourselves through over standardization, pressures and challenges of, look, this is a game. It boils down to a game. It's not a science. It's not a template. There are rules. Some people might argue there's too many, but it's a game. It's a place you go play a game, and that's what we've kind of just tried to make it. And then everything else is kind of a sidebar to the game. It's obviously the top 100 golf course, but there's so much more here than just playing golf. But that's just the beauty about the game. And so everybody says you learn so many lessons from it. You can do anything you want at this golf course, essentially.
You mentioned the normal golf club behaviors, right? I know you spent time in the private golf world. You had your experience. Yeah, like what were, me personally, it's sometimes we think, okay, for more fun or for a better experience, we got to add. Well, we got to add this, we got to add that. But what did you guys feel like you had to strip out? Because I feel like that's the best places, that the ones that they've really stripped out a lot of those, golf club norms, and it's made the experience better.
Yeah, look, there's a word in golf that it's almost like protected, right? The word tradition. What is tradition, and is some traditions benefiting the game or not? Like, I'm not here to try to change tradition, and we didn't necessarily want to redefine tradition in the park. We just wanted to realize what is necessary and what's unnecessary. Private clubs do tradition better than anybody. I mean, the greatest private clubs in the world are second to none in some places as far as their ability to follow traditions, and their traditions are amazing. It's what a lot of people respect about those. The park's 4 years old. For me to say we have a tradition, it's a little too premature to say that. So, we didn't want those traditions to create unnecessary standards or unnecessary rules where, you couldn't be yourself. We wanted everybody to feel like we were truly open to anyone to come and experience the park, whether it was playing golf on the the full golf course, or just to knock around on the putting course for free. We eliminated, I guess, the word tradition for those. So the etiquette, the things that are, look, they have a place where everyone wants to be conforming to an elevated standard, i.e. a private club where there's commonality, and those are things you look for. You can't have that at a public golf course because you have so many different people from so many different backgrounds. Like you've seen and experienced here at the park, is the commonality was not the goal. We can have an elevated experience without everyone looking and dressing the same, collared shirts, whatever that might be. I mean, you can be respectful. We're not asking for anybody to show up and be disrespectful, over the top or anything, but come as you are, be who you are, and you can have fun here and come up with your own traditions. So the park was definitely, that was where the open golf mantra kind of came from, was to eliminate the challenges and the barriers that were keeping people from trying the game. It's an intimidating game. It is a hard game. Clubhouses, memberships, rules, those things, they're very intimidating. I still feel intimidated sometimes. I've gotten the pleasure to play some golf courses on top 10 lists since coming down here, and man, it's like walking on glass sometimes when you're at some of these places, which is fine, but that's definitely not what we want anybody to feel like here.
Brian, I know we're going to dive into, how you intentionally strip some of those intimidating aspects away, but I want to push into your story a little bit. Was this something that has always been on your mind, being in golf? Or when did this all of a sudden become a realization like, hey, golf can be different, and I'm actually going to be someone that tries to help make that happen? Where did you hit that apex in your life?
That's a great question. I've thought about that before, because no, you're right. I mean, I got into golf late. in life, but early as a career, and managed to stick through it. I was very fortunate to wind up not being a product of what a lot of my peers and friends did, where they just couldn't keep going in the business because it was too hard. None of us are self-made millionaires in this business. The pressures, especially with a college education in your mid-20s, to go out and make more than $12 an hour are strong, especially if you're starting a family. But anyway, somewhere when I started to just, I guess, get involved in a governance level with the Georgia PGA, I was outside of Atlanta. Had just reopened for the the Williams family that had a similar kind of a land lease to what we have down here with the state of Georgia for the Lanier Islands Resort. Just kind of realized that we weren't private. We're not going to compete with private. We're daily fee, but we needed to be a little bit different. And then recognize that the differentiator, that was always a big word from Mr. Williams, for us was not to try to be like everybody else. So what are some of the ways that we can be different but and be unique? And that was relaxing some of the traditional things that people talk about with the collared shirt, the dress codes, things like that. I didn't really get a chance to put any of that to test, I guess, until going downtown for the Bobby Jones golf course. That was definitely where I first kind of heard the language of, look, we want to be different. We don't want to be the same as everyone else. Everyone else does it great, and kudos to them. Let them keep doing that. Let's try some things in an essence where maybe you wanted to try them before, and I think a lot of guys did, but they just weren't in a position where they could take that risk. But we were fortunate in Atlanta that we could take some risk. We could try some things that may or may not have worked. We were thankfully under a little bit of an umbrella where we were allowed to fail as long as we learned from those failures. And we could challenge some of the norms. We saw it in other sports. We weren't necessarily new to that game. You saw it in some other sports that have, challenges to rules and traditions and etiquettes and things like that. The whole, like I said, the top golf phenomena was kind of going. It was like, oh my God, there's people playing golf at a bowling alley, and look, they're wearing shirts and all, or t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. So we were obviously wanting to attract some people, or whatever they call them, crossover golfers or everything like that. So that was kind of when I started to realize that, we're going to go down this road. I like change. I don't necessarily look for it for the sake of change, but I also like asking the question, why do you do something over and over again? Sometimes it is rational, reasonable to make changes. And if you're in a place, kind of an experiment lab, so to speak, then take advantage of that. And that's kind of what Atlanta started out to be, where we could experiment and do some things different. And if it turned out to be the right thing to do, we obviously would realize that. And if it wasn't, then we would change and pivot.
I'm going to personalize this because it hits home, Brian, because I was in my own little test lab with New Club Golf Society when I first connected with you, and you were, unbeknownst to me, you were also in the test lab at Bobby Jones. I just loved that interaction, and reflecting on it before we talked today, it was, boy, here's somebody who is asking why, who's trying to really. You get so many, and just in our interaction, I got so many responses. Oh, that's interesting, but it's not the way that we do things. But you said, that's interesting. Let me think about how that would play here, like how I could test that. And there's so much unwillingness to test in golf. And I think that truly is what holds us back from, real innovation, not people hear innovation and they think about the ball going farther, but really innovation in the experience that we're talking about. And so I can see why you're an innovator. You've been put in a good position to succeed and test. It sounds like, but you got to learn those lessons. You got to be willing to fail and iterate. I mean, that's just anything that got better. That's the process you go through, the painstaking process. So I'm curious about some of those failures or some of those lessons. What were the things you learned from those early experiences doing it a little different that you applied to the park, today? I mean, I got to imagine there's friction, in a lot of the way these places have gone about doing their public, private, all of it. What were some of those frictions, and how'd you overcome them? How'd you adjust? I'd love an example or two.
Man, some of the friction is around potentially the barrier of cost. The word affordable, like what's affordable? Look, maintaining a golf course is not cheap. It's also, it's not free. You see these golf courses that get into economic situations. I don't want to say necessarily failures, because of the pressure that they're trying to be too much for everybody or trying to be something they're not. And then the imbalance in that they're afraid to charge what they're worth. They're afraid to say that, and even in a relaxed or a fun atmosphere, that this is an elevated product and this is what we're worth and this is what we're going to charge. And to, I guess, put it in perspective, in Atlanta, we jokingly said, it was like, hey, there's 7 million people in Atlanta and we have a 9-hole golf course. We only really have to be liked by, 7 or 8,000 people. So we can literally piss off 6.95 million people and we could still be successful. And obviously that was an internal kind of a joke, but I guess that was it. Was like, nobody in the golf business likes hearing criticism, I think, because we're trying to be, everything to everybody and yes is always the answer and all this kind of stuff. But it's not necessarily every golf course is for everybody or every experience is for everybody. The public golf in Atlanta was very underpriced. That's why it was failing. That's why Bobby Jones Golf Course went out, or when the Bobby Jones Golf Course Foundation was created. It was an incredible name behind a facility that had no reason bearing that name. And so some concerned people, Marty Elgison being the leader of that, went out and said, look, we need to create a product that is worthy of this name. Yeah, we're going to have value to that, but guess what? It's not going to cost as cheap as what had happened. And so I guess you said the failures. I don't know if it was necessarily a failure, but we understood that some people were just not going to find that our price structure was for them. And that's fine, because there still were options. There were other options at every price point. I mean, it's kind of like buying a car. I'd love to go drive a Mercedes. I can't afford one. Mercedes should not have to charge what I can afford because I want to go drive a Mercedes. There's some pretty damn nice GMCs and Fords and Kias out there, and that are just as good a quality and value. We felt that pressure a little bit more at the park because, look, we're in a very, very high-end market. The park, to even be relevant in Palm Beach, had to be what it is, which is a truly unique and remarkable golf course, maintained at a high standard of playability and turf conditions. Because just look down the street at everyone that's around here and all your options. If the park was in Savannah, Georgia, it doesn't need to be what it is right now because it's just not the expectation. But when you come down here, you expect a golf course, a premium experience like what we give. And of course, the costs and the prices reflect that, especially in season. We're a high-end daily fee golf course. There are golf courses right down the street from us that are a fraction of what we are, and that's fine. So we don't all have to price it accordingly. So the pricing was not necessarily the mistake, but definitely the one that caught the most friction, or that created the most friction, and then just sticking with it and not being ashamed at what your price structure is. We're going to price it what it is, and then we're going to deliver on what our pricing shows. We're not afraid of that.
Yeah, I was looking at the tier pricing for a Florida resident, for a city resident, and then visitors like the professor and I, and everything you just described actually is jumping off the page at me now. It's like you to protect that. Well, I guess I'll ask it as this question of like, I see the pricing model reflecting exactly what you just said, but how do you protect the local belonging piece, the community piece, whether it's the amount of tee times, because you're always going to have the revenue pressure, right? Of more visitor tee times, it means a lot more revenue. So maybe we open it up a little bit. How do you protect, something as one-to-one as, no, these are going to be times for our local residents, or the booking windows are such. I'd love to know about that. But then the other piece is just servicing those two groups. And I see this overseas, and I always respect it, where it's like, boy, in peak season, there are busloads of visitors paying top dollar coming in. But then there's like this protection of the local club, the local community, that sense of belonging, which I know you guys have. So I'd love to know the balance there, Brian, both from a revenue standpoint and then just like an intentionality standpoint. How hard is that to protect?
It boils down to, I guess I'll say, education. What I mean by education is you gotta look at the big picture and not at the singular tee time on a Thursday in January. So the park is definitely a lot more complex. Atlanta, and with Bobby Jones, we were just trying to create a product that was affordable but still worth the price. We weren't trying to be a premium product. It was an elevated, I'd say, upper mid-scale daily fee golf course. It was enjoyable, it was fun, but you don't go down there. It's not a signature golf course. I don't know about Gilhan's and all that kind of stuff. So there wasn't as many complexities to the rate structure there. It was basically, this is what we needed to charge based on the product that we were given, and giving accessibility and being a 9-hole golf course and all that kind of stuff. Down here is definitely different. The we don't really have to protect it because we offer so much more than just that singular tee time. The locals in a transient market realize that they get to experience the park year round. Would they like to play golf in January in season on a Friday at 10 o'clock? Sure. Are they going to pay a little bit more? Absolutely. They're still going to pay less than the out-of-state guy, but they also realize that if they took all of the ability for us in that short period of time to maximize our revenues, then that means they're not going to get the golf course that right now on a Wednesday night, as you guys saw, has 106 people playing in the 9-hole league.
Mm-hmm.
And on a Thursday night, that's got a mixed league. And oh, by the way, every year on our birthday, we let locals come play for free. And then I haven't even talked about it yet. They don't see the tremendous work that we're doing within the community with what the reason this project was created, which was the path. So when I mean education, it's if you're just going to be stubborn and just look, you're charging $360 to play golf on a Friday in January. That's ridiculous in public. Well, all right, if you don't want to at least listen and have a little bit more complex, or a little bit more a chance for me to kind of tell you, okay, well, this is what we can do because we do this. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, and like I said, everybody, price is relative. The locals get it because they've seen everything else we do. The 3 festivals a year that we do that are free. Christmas around here, oh my God, if you come here on a Sunday before Christmas, we're running 2 tractors back and forth to our teaching studio to take letters to Santa because Santa Claus is here. There's probably 700 to 800 people on property. We show a movie at night on the lawn where they're having popcorn and cotton candy and hot cocoa for the adults and such, and it's free to join, just to come out here. The Easter egg hunt, if you find videos of that online, I dare you to find a golf course, public or private, that has over 1,000 kids simultaneously in 3 different Easter egg hunts for free to get to come out here and fill their baskets and do that kind of stuff. So the locals get it. We're more than just a golf course. We truly, and this was 100% by design. If you go back to the original conversation between the Mayor James, and with Seth, is that we're an amenity for the city residents. For everybody, no, that's impossible. But those that realize that, wow, this is in my backyard, they appreciate it and they understand. We have to make our bones during the time of year where we have to make our bones, and we do it respectfully. But it takes a lot of fuel to run this place, and that's when we have our ability to get it. And again, like I said, I'm not going to be bashful about it. We're going to give you that value when you pay that much.
Hey, Brian, real quick, just so some of our listeners that maybe want to replicate this model, I want to push in. With the locals, did you do intentional messaging around this vision, or did you just trust, hey, we're going to do it and we're going to execute it well, and that's going to paint the picture for them because they're going to see it in action over the first year or two?
I'd say more the latter, and not necessarily by design. I mean, this was such a white page. There wasn't a template. I mean, obviously, my experience in Bobby Jones is one of the reasons that I was somewhat recruited to come down here, but even to my own experience, there's very little we drew from it. I wasn't just handed, here's the playbook, follow it. We just kind of built it. We built a 747 mid-flight crossing the Atlantic, and thankfully the plane didn't crash. Took a little while to get going. We went through some storms, but we did it as we went, because to the credit of the guys, Seth and the team that started this thing from the ground up, that was the way that they wanted to do it. It's like, to do it right, and they were understanding and knowing that we were going to make some mistakes and have some bumps on the road, but that, look, we're going to do it right. We're going to kind of feel our way through it and see what the public said. So yeah, there was some initial messaging to the public that I feel like we did deliver on, and actually probably over deliver on. But I think the rest of it was they eventually, and I think definitely now, they trusted us, that the intent was to create the funnest place in golf. Not to line anybody's pockets, not to make money for a bank because there's some loan out there that we took out these huge mortgages and stuff on. They're truly the only people that are going to benefit from the financial success of this place are the local residents, through the kids and through the schools and through those people who live in the backyard. So that once they understood that we had their trust, that we could almost kind of just go about it in a trial and error basis.
Love it. Brian, it's very clear you and Seth have a close relationship, and you've alluded to the recruitment a couple times. So I want to dive into that. What did that recruitment look like? Did he walk you on that tarmac and there's your half-built 747 with a couple parts lying around, or was this something else that got you down there from Bobby Jones?
So back up to the summer of 2021, I think it was 21. The KPMG championship, women's championship, was at the Atlanta Athletic Club. I was as GM at Bobby Jones. We were trying to, we were very proud of what we did at Bobby Jones, and we were trying to get people to notice it. We wanted to be leaders. We wanted to be that kind of template. We were one of the few that actually had an open facility. There were a lot of ideas and a lot of people who were trying to do this, but we were really the only one that was open. Like, here, learn from our mistakes and all this kind of stuff, experience it. We were also still fundraising, and we were courting the PGA of America as well as some other financially well-off foundations for that project in Atlanta. And we were taking advantage. I was section president at the time, which the section offices, as you know, are at Golf House in Atlanta. There was a meeting that was arranged through the Georgia PGA and the PGA of America with the Arthur Blank Foundation. The PGA of America was soliciting the Arthur Blank Family Foundation to be a large donor for PGA Reach. They knew that Arthur was hugely a supporter of PGA Reach and veteran golf and everything, and they were going to ask him to be a trustee. Well, we knew Seth was coming up and knew that he had this project going on down here. There's on a funnier story, not funny, but there's another story that involves a PGA member that essentially why this place even started was because they first sought employment at Bobby Jones, and we kind of went a different direction. So that person came down here and talked to Seth and said, "Hey, I got this idea." So anyway, we knew Seth was coming to Atlanta, and we wanted to kind of basically make a pitch as both the PGA section, and Bobby Jones to say, "Hey, can the PGA help us out?" After we got out of the way of the Arthur Blank meeting. So I had Seth for 20 minutes because it's about as much time as he had before he had to get up to the Atlanta Athletic Club from downtown. He just got off the plane. So I started giving him a tour, and 2.5 hours later, we had seen every inch of Bobby Jones golf course. The teaching studio, the golf house, whatever. As you can say, sometimes I don't have a problem talking, probably rambling, but we were very proud of what we did, and I had a chance to show somebody what we had accomplished there, and hopefully could get something of it. By no means did I have any idea that turned out to be a recruiting visit, because again, that was like in June of that summer. Then, out of nowhere, January 3rd, the first Monday after New Year's, whatever that is, 6 months later, at 8 o'clock in the morning, which in January in Georgia, you're not doing anything. I was in my office. I think there's probably only 5 of us on property. It was freezing cold. There was nobody playing golf. I got a call from the section ED down here, Jeff Lofstead, who I'd met through governance as well, too. And he said, "Hey, so what do you think about coming down here and opening the park?" And I thought he was kidding because, look, everything was great in Atlanta. I was in a really good spot. And then I realized, "Oh, you're serious." He goes, "Yeah, Seth wanted me to make this call, and he wants to talk to you about this." I was like, "Okay." So, I guess I left it open-ended, but I immediately walked into Scott Geary's office, which is right around the corner from mine, who is our ED for the Georgia PGA we just recently hired. And he looked at me and said, "You're an idiot if you don't go down there and do this." So, again, at the moment that he called, I kind of thought of it as a lateral move. I just opened a golf course. Why do I want to go open another golf course? But once we started to see just to the next level of what this place was going to do, and what Seth and that team had already kind of started the groundwork and the vision, I realized, the importance of what that recruiting trip was and why it was, and started, having the conversations with you guys down here. I flew down maybe 2 months after that when they got serious about starting to put the team together, getting closer to when they thought they were going to open, and the rest is history. So it was, I say it's by accident, but it definitely was not something intentional or something that I sought out. But I'm very fortunate that look, it's right place, right time, and taking some risks.
Something I said, Brian, in the early intro was, when on the outside looking in, everyone says like, man, every city needs a place like the park. And then when I hear stories like that, I go, well, there's a lot of things that need to come together, for it to actually be the case. And I guess I want to get to this idea of is the model you guys have transferable or does it travel? And part of that, and I'm just going to fast forward us here, from your you get the gig, you come down. Yeah, we're 5 years past that $55 million charitable fund that built this incredible place. Where you guys are in the throes of managing a lot from outside looking in.
Yeah.
What is the actual model, Brian? Like, I'd love to know just a little bit of like what pays for what, and how can we learn from your guys' example if we're in, Boise, Idaho, or we're in Akron, Ohio, or in Athens, Georgia? Because I think that's where it doesn't always add up for me. Is it seems like there's some rare circumstances that led to the park that not everywhere is going to have.
Yeah. Okay. So two things. Is it repeatable anywhere? 100% it is. The commonality isn't the scale. The park is on a scale, like I said. It's not necessary. It's also not repeatable. Like if you're familiar, which I wasn't, and I'm still learning, this is a very unique part of our country. There is an amazing number of people with an enormous amount of not just wealth, but also the generosity of what they do with that wealth. I mean, to raise $55 million in essentially days is incredible. It's remarkable. Is it repeatable? Probably not. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. What is the common thing between what was happening in Atlanta and what happened here is the people. Marty Elgison, who passed recently, unfortunately, was a saint. I'll get choked up talking about him. He was Seth in Atlanta. He had a vision. It was not my vision. I was just fortunate enough that I was one of the people that was selected to act on that vision. Seth had a vision down here. It's a TED Talk. You got to have a why. The why isn't a playbook from a management company or a previous golf course or what a pro that used to do or anything like that. The why is actually, it's organic, it's personal, and it typically comes from a very unique and a very incredible person. That then now the golf course is the vehicle to that why. You eliminate, and I remember that Marty kind of said this and was misquoted. You eliminate the profitability. What he meant to say, and what happens is you eliminate the individual who is profiting off of this business. Because make no mistake, this is a business. It is a game, but we have to be sustainable. So we run this like a business. But again, no one's trying to recoup a return on an investment. There's not a bank loan outstanding or anything like that. We're truly being able to make decisions 100% mission driven. That is very, very difficult. We're very incredibly fortunate to be able to do that here. But if you have the why and you have the financial ability to generate or to create a product that you take the profitability or nature out of it, or the person who gains to profit out of it, then I think you can do this anywhere. Again, the scale has to match the market that you're in. This isn't Savannah, Georgia. This isn't Buffalo, New York. This isn't Cleveland, Ohio. This is Palm Beach. This is the home of golf, or whatever Palm Beach County deems itself. It's the most golf courses per capita or per square mile in the country, if not in the world. With there's top tens, it feels like, on every corner, stuff like this. So the park had to be at this level to be relevant in the conversation down here, and it was. But you don't need to build the park everywhere in order to be successful. Bobby Jones is a really, really fun, unique 9-hole golf course in an incredibly small footprint of land. So if you're true to the scale of the project, then yes, I think if you have the right people in place with the right intentions in place, this 100% is replicable everywhere. They're doing it on the West Coast over here with the Gate in Fort Myers. Obviously, I think everybody is very well aware of what's happening up in Philadelphia with Cobbs Creek. There are other examples of this here. So I don't have a template, nor would I expect anybody to try to do this to follow our lead and necessarily do it the way we did it. We do want to be one of one, but in a way we do really want to be one of many. That was another thing Seth wanted to do. I don't think he necessarily wanted to create the game book. What I think he wanted to do is to show people it's possible. And if we show that it was possible the same way we showed it's possible in Atlanta, then kind of come up with your own game book, because it definitely has to speak to that region. Bobby Jones is an Atlanta hero. The Bobby Jones golf course is not going to work in Lexington, Kentucky. Nobody knows who Bobby Jones is in Lexington, Kentucky. you had a golf course that was named after a hero in Atlanta that, didn't represent that person's name well enough. So it tugged on that kind of local heartstring. The park's local heartstring that was tugged on is, look, this is the home of golf in the United States, and they wanted to create, as you guys saw, a professor played it, a golf experience like none other in South Florida. This is not a South Florida golf course. There is not a drop of water on this golf course. It definitely looks like you're in a different part of the world when you're playing this golf course. So it was unique to that. So that's that personal touch to it. But by all means, man, it's I really hope that more places do this, because it's necessary. It's just as necessary as the true muni that's, maybe $15 to walk 9 holes in an afternoon. And are you going to play on golf course turf conditions like you do at the park? No, but that's not necessary everywhere you play. You don't have to tee it up on that kind of conditions every time you play it in order to play golf or in order to grow the game. We all like to go out for a nice dinner from time to time. It's kind of the way we treat the park in the season. No, we don't expect you to have 3 games a week out here. That'd be ridiculous. But at that point, go join a club. That's kind of what you're looking for. But this is a guy's trip. This is a weekend trip to come play a really cool experience that you don't have to be a member. It's just anybody can come down here and do this. And then in the summertime, like it is right now, like you guys see, we're in the off season, but we're still busy. I said, we're still putting out 100, 115 people in shotguns in the afternoon that are couples, newlyweds, whatever. They're all out there playing. It's what they do. So that's kind of the personal connection to it.
I got some questions about that as we're talking in the heat of summer. I would definitely want to get to it. But that answer, there's so much illustrative in that answer, Brian. I wonder what you I just like that it's repeatable, but maybe not at that scale. So that's what I love to hear, is like the model. There's so much in the model that is repeatable, but just, it's going to be a slightly different scale for different municipalities and communities that are looking to do it. But I'm curious about kind of the benchmark for success moving forward. Do you think for the park, is it self-sufficiency?
Yeah.
Or is there nothing wrong with a civic golf place, a golf community that permanently has, a good business, but is reliant on philanthropy?
The philanthropic nature of it, and my experience only being in these 2 facilities, fundraising was easy. I say easy. Fundraising was less difficult before anyone ever played a round of golf at either facility. And then you become kind of a product of your own success. I do not come from a philanthropic background. Foundations are brand new to me. This whole idea of giving millions of dollars for others, I'm 100% in supportive of it, but I am by no means, that's not my background. I have seen in both instances, both golf courses, to a degree, different degree, we're still in a fundraising mode. One more passive than the other. But listen, there's always going to be people asking for those people's money. They're fishing from a very small barrel. Once people realize that you're sustainable, there's less propensity to say, well, do you really need it? So, Atlanta, Bobby Jones never had, the foundation was there to rebuild and to give the capital influx to get that golf course to a sustainable level from that point on. And then at that point, just basically be a landlord. There was not any, in essence there was never going to be necessarily a surplus of funds for any endowment or anything after the fact. It was to build a golf course that was then going to be financially sustainable from that point on, kind of resetting, so to speak, where it had been left in disrepair for so long by those that managed it beforehand. So it was kind of get it back to level and then let it go. This was very different, and part of the nature of the fundraising is there was always intentionality of there to be a surplus, and that endowment be what funds the path that I mentioned earlier, and everything that we do on the community level that is not golf. The community program that we provide for the path is a multi-level from elementary to high school program where we take the kids in the schools most closest to us and we provide them the necessary educational and otherwise help that they need in order to get through school and to change and to get them back on a better path in life. You can obviously check this out on our website. It is far more. We could do another podcast on the path. I would
I was
definitely
gonna
bring
say
Dave
we
because
might.
he's a whole lot
Yeah,
better at talking about it than I can be. But the videos are on there, everything. So anyway, the financial model here was always going to be, look, the golf course was going to be sustainable, and the operations of the golf course were going to maintain itself in perpetuity, and that any income that we do produce goes into a capital reserve fund for, as you know, future projects, the new air conditioning units, new roofs for these buildings, new greens 15 years down the road. Things happen, right? You can't just leave them there. So the golf course was always going to reinvest in itself. And then the endowment that was left over was going to take care of everything else. Does operations pay for some of the path? Sure it does. Yeah, absolutely. We're in the same umbrella. There's a foundation, and then there's an LLC, which is the golf course. So it's all kind of going to the same place. But again, no one's profiting on it. There's no kickbacks. There's no checks being cut to anybody. No one is financially benefiting off of the success of the park. The park is benefiting from its own success, and that was always the premise, was that we would be a sustainable entity. It's a 50-year lease for the city of West Palm Beach. The city definitely doesn't want to fund it anymore. They were losing $1 million a year in operating costs up until when they closed the golf course in 2018. We just took $1 million loss off their books, and so they're happy. If we're done spending money, if we have funded all capital programs and things that we want to or need to do in order to keep this place at the standard that we want to, then a portion of it does go back to the city for them to put in their parks and rec. And then it's written into the lease, and that's a great thing for them. But by no means are they looking or expecting that money down the road, because we took one of their assets and we've now made it one of the hottest things in golf right here in their backyard, hosting things like the match, hosting things like the PGA Reach Works. We're putting eyeballs on West Palm Beach. And I can't let the cat out of the bag, but by the time this thing airs, we'll also be hosting a new event first of the year to bring more eyeballs and more attention, not only to the park, but also to West Palm Beach. So that's what we're here for. We're an amenity to the city of West Palm Beach that they can be proud of and to run that way. So, but the financial model is, again, the word I think that's important when I talk to peers that are trying to do this in other areas, is just be scalable and be realistic. Not everyone needs $55 million. Not everyone's capable of doing $55 million. If it's a $9 million golf park, if it's a $12 million range in par 3, just being what you are and understanding your identity, you can still have the same vibe at places like that. I'm sure you guys have seen them all over the place. That's what's important, is just understanding the identity that you are and realizing that the benefit is different everywhere that it's at, and you don't have to be a top 100 in order to accomplish it.
And you're pulling on my heartstrings here, Brian. This is so refreshing. Your orientation towards being mission driven with is so important that you pulled out with profit and investment not being that mission, right? Because I truly think the best businesses, in terms of the consumer and what they get, they operate under that, right? Their mission is really consumer oriented, and we've moved into such a world with venture capitalists and that VC world and private equity world where it is more about the profit, that that is the major mission. So hearing that, and I think country clubs actually fall into that too much too. They lose their mission and just turn into being too much of a business. So refreshing. And I got to circle back on you because you mentioned you don't have experience with foundations and didn't have that background. But yet here you are being at two of the most mission-driven places in the last decade around golf. So what is it about you that aligns with a mission-driven place, and that, they see you as someone that can help them accomplish what they accomplish, but also you've gravitated towards that. So there's something in the fabric of you that puts you in this seat talking to us now.
I don't know. I guess it's cliche because inside the box, outside the box. What the hell is the box? Who creates it? Who gets to say what the box is, right? I definitely am more comfortable outside of the box just by nature. I realized that very early on, and it's the whole reason I'm even in the golf business is I followed templates all the way through school, all the way through college at UGA. There was like a timeline that we were all supposedly on that defined our own success, where conformality, you get your degree, go out, get your job, have 2.5 kids, white picket fence, all this kind of stuff. I very quickly learned after graduating from UGA and going through the recruitment process for some firms and some marketing companies that I was not 9 to 5 in an office cubicle suit and tie. Like, oh my God, if I did something 2 days in a row, by the third day I was bored or just, hang me. So I think my nature of just like I don't want 2 days to be the same period. Like I want every day to be different. And you have to work to be different. It's hard to be different. Change is very hard, and we're in a business and we're in an industry, if you want to call golf an industry, where there is a reluctance to change because I think too many guys have been, they had found unfortunate consequences to failure. So we were almost taught not to fail. So no one took those chances. And like I said, I guess my personality, my experience, or maybe even my own just seeking it out, I found niches and places where I was given the ability to fail as long as I learned from it, or as long as the nature of the decisions came from the right place. So, listen, I love making money. That's my scorecard, not section events, is P&L. Like, I'm going to make something sustainable. I'm going to figure out how to make it work, but oddly enough, the last two golf courses necessarily, that wasn't its mission driven statement is to be able to make money. That was definitely was the case with the family resort back, in Georgia. There was a financial investment by that family that they obviously wanted to recoup. So that was definitely financial driven, but these last two have been more foundationally driven. Sustainability took a little bit longer to get to in Atlanta, and thankfully here it did not. So that's kind of how I look for profitability. I think of it more as sustainability, but I have the freedom, thankfully, from the people who I work for, who also want, to surround myself also with guys and girls who equally realize that, listen, we don't know how this is going to work. We're just going to do our best, and at the end of the day, again, if everybody has fun doing it, we're probably going to get to where we are, and so far we have.
We got to talk about walking.
Yeah.
Professor, it wouldn't be right if we had you on. We didn't talk about the merits of walk-in, because I know you've made the public case for walk-in, as many have, and it's usually the argument is around experience and well-being, health, so many things that the professor and I agree with wholeheartedly. But as I'm getting ready for talking to you, Brian, I'm looking, I got the ProPublica data on the park, and I'm looking at the usage numbers, and you guys, you're making the case from a revenue perspective, both with just your pricing tiers that you already talked about, but the caddy program. And I want to dive into this because not only are you a walking first golf operation, but you're doing it in the Southeast, man. What's the temperature out there today? Like, how do you manage that? How do you do it?
That was one of the things, like I said, I really love it when somebody says you can't do something, because it almost drives me to say, okay, want to bet? So here I was, redneck in South Florida. We got everybody's like, first of all, public golf courses, nobody walks. It's South Florida, nobody can walk. Anyway, it was a challenge. Look, again, the park is very unique. Kudos to Gil and this design, and then Dirk Ziff, who did the routing. It's remarkable, it's phenomenal, but as I've said, it's intentional. This is a walkable golf course. It is not, 7 miles of cart paths meandering through condos and homes and whatever. So again, this doesn't necessarily translate to everywhere. It was built to walk, and if a golf course is designed to be walkable, I will make the case that the majority of people will walk it. The game is better and more fun when walked. Golf carts, and I know I got a lot of guys in that business back in Augusta, they're a nuisance. They get in the way. They I feel like are more the case of slow play than walking. So anyway, it was a challenge that I obviously 100% accepted, to make walking a mantra here and part of our ethos. And everyone said, yeah, they'll fail. So like I said, that was all the drive I needed. So we hired the right people to build an incredible caddy yard. We hired great caddies. The caddy yard here is remarkable. Talk about it as a success that we didn't see coming. We get over 200 applicants a year for season for caddies that want to come down here and caddy at the park just because of what we built here. We defined success before we opened as, look, if we can play a fourth or a third of our rounds walking and with caddies, then great, we did it. It's sustainable. We can go from there, and then everybody who wants to ride in a cart can can ride in a cart. What I learned after looking around here is that, well, the reason no one walks in South Florida is because they don't let them. It's not necessarily by choice. There's a par three golf course out on the island that I'm thinking, well, surely it's a par three golf course. People walk a par three golf course. No one walks it. I was like, well, why would anybody want to walk it? And then I realized they don't let them. Carts are revenue.
Wow. On a par three
Car
course.
fees are revenue. So there's a golf course. It's like, okay, do people not want to walk, or is it you don't let them walk? Because again, also people like private clubs. Oh, walkers are slow. Walkers, whatever. Well, maybe they're slower than a private course where everybody's got their personal golf cart that does 26 miles an hour, has seat belts, and everybody's got their own cart, and they're just running through and like some of the private clubs where 8-footer kick it back. That's good. All right, that's pace of play. Anyway, we're walking.
Hey, you're speaking my language. Just keep cooking, Brian.
We're walking here, and look, we let it organically grow as much as it did, and so here's the organics of it: is we're still since day one, 55% of our rounds are walking year round. We do mandate walking early in the morning in the summertime before 10 a.m. We're walking only, and in season before noon we're walking only. So, but I will tell you that even in the afternoon we have guys walking. We have girls walking. When carts are available, we are still playing 50% of those rounds by walking. The caddy thing is phenomenal. We talked about, all right, what's a good number of loops that would define success? It's like, well, let's do 6,000 loops. We're on pace to do 13,000, a little over 13,000 loops this year. We have a caddy mandatory period. It's the first hour of the day, every day, all year long. But then after that, it's by choice. And that's it. So of the 13,000 rounds that we do, less than 20% of them are because we make you take a caddy. The rest of the time, they're taking caddy because they want to. Man, I didn't ever get a chance to know. I didn't know. I think the first caddied round of golf I ever had was when I got a chance to play Pebble Beach, however many, 15 so odd years ago. And it was cool. And then where else do you get a chance to do that? In the public space, hardly anywhere. So we're giving somebody an experience that they don't get. And again, like I said, we will back it up. Our caddies are phenomenal. The guys are great. They get to play the golf course. They're not, so they know the golf course as well as anybody, and they're really good caddies. We actually have 64 guys that were in the yard this year, and all 64 of them were here the year before. We did not have any new caddies come in other than our junior caddy program, which is a little bit separate. But our seasonal caddies that come in north-south or come in for season, they were all rehires. So they all want to be here and stick around and come back to the park when they come back down here for the wintertime. So yeah, walking is a thing, man. Walk the park. You've seen the t-shirts. You've seen the stuff on social media. It's a thing here, and I am 100% convinced it's not that people don't want to walk. People just don't let them. Whether it's the way the golf course is built, designed, laid out, or the rules of the facility is like, wow, no, we want your cart money. I don't want you to walk. You're going to slow everything down. So I think what you were alluding to earlier, Matt, is something I shared with you guys, that look, we track rounds, we track pace of play. We're obviously on top of that as much as any public golf course should be. And year in, year out, so far since we've opened, we are consistently between 12 and 15 minutes faster on our walking rounds of golf than any carted round of golf. I think the statistics of 90% of our sub 4 hour rounds of golf are walking.
Mm-hmm.
And flip that, 90% of our 4.5 hour rounds of golf are in golf carts. It's just, look, game was played to walk, man. And there are people who obviously, various health reasons, that are unable to walk, and maybe they wish they could and they can't. So we do allow, for medical purposes, someone to take a cart, but it's just that person. Their caddy is still walking. They're using the cart to get from point A to point B for medical reasons, and that's it. But the rest of the time, man, you come out to the park and you feel like you're out there by yourself when you're playing, when everybody's walking with caddies and there's 120 people on the golf course.
Man, I got to jump in, Matt, real quick. I got to jump in and apologize because I did one of my few riding rounds down there of the year. It'll be one of the less than 5 probably.
So you're the 45%.
I feel guilty because I love Brian spitting actual data on this. Everything Brian is saying about walking versus riding is absolutely true. We have the data. The USGA has done studies on this. But Al, if you're listening, I'm not succumbing to your "it's going to be hot, we got to ride" thing. We are taking caddies next time. No questions asked if you're listening to this, Al.
Well, and sincerely, I've succumbed to, Professor, and usually it is heat, the way that people will kind of.
It does get hot down here. I mean, Yeah.
Atlanta's got a lot of hills and people, you do want to have some safety. But Brian, it's a flatter golf course, of course, than many. What are there precautions you need to take in the summertime for having a higher percentage of walkers? Like what are are there little things that just support it when it's hot?
Yeah,
Free bottled water.
yeah, water. We always have bottled water. Actually, during the walking hours right now, we put the old school Gatorade cans out there.
Oh,
But look,
that's
the
fantastic.
caddies know. I mean, it gets hot in a cart too. The caddies know. We know what to look for. Like, people just are used to it. I mean, there's 30 plus foot of elevation. I mean, obviously, it's not the foothills of Atlanta. It's not that kind of elevation, so it's not 100% flat here. The distance from green to tee and then tee straight to green, just you're going to, yeah, I mean, in some cases you're going to walk more in a carted round here than otherwise. But yeah, do we have precautions? Sure, we give everybody every ability to stay hydrated, right? We got the, whatever you want to call these things. It took social media by storm a few years ago. We give everybody a chance and we encourage everyone to stay hydrated. The caddies do a great job to make sure their players stay hydrated. They recognize when people are starting to get a little bit hot or overheated and such. So, but you're in South Florida. Most people understand what they're getting into when they come down here.
So yeah, just walk more, everybody. Come on, and let's build more walking friendly golf courses. That was the way you guys set expectations around this too, Brian. It's just outstanding. Just being on the website, seeing the language you have, everyone with conversation, as you said earlier, everyone can kind of get on the same page. And with that idea, one of the last topics I wanted to dive into with you is, the thing people keep saying is after they visit, as the professor did, that the golf is real. It's serious. This is a fantastic world-class golf course, but the place doesn't feel like it only belongs to those serious golfers, those people that are going to make a pilgrimage, that are going to come down like myself to see the golf. If there wasn't that level of golf course, a lot of those guys and gals wouldn't be making the trip. But how do you keep the architecture nerds, the neighborhood family children that are in the path program, the lit 9 date night crowd, the total beginners on the Top Tracer Rain, like how do you keep them all feeling a part of the place and balancing? Is it servicing all those different groups in those different ways? Is it allocation of time and resources? I mean, how do you do that? Because I think that from a management standpoint seems like the most impressive thing that's happening.
It's people, 100%. The staff that's here, the people we hired, understanding the values that we respect from those of us that were part of the original leaders hired by the Seth and the guys, the team that they allowed me to assemble, and then that filtering through all the way to the front line. It's a culture thing, and look, everyone, I want to say, they claim culture, it's a buzzword. When it really isn't, and it really is truly what you have, which I'm very thankful we have here. That is where it resonates. I experienced it first in Atlanta, oddly enough, because that was one of the early criticisms is like, well, how can you be this open? People were going to expect this and whatever. And thankfully, I'd already kind of seen in Atlanta, so I wasn't afraid of it down here, even though it's on a completely different level. I mean, it's on steroids down here. You have billionaires playing golf with 16-year-old kids and whatever. But anyway, we noticed in Atlanta one day, we kind of laughed about it. There was a member at Peachtree that we all knew. There's also a member at Augusta now, and he's sitting on the range and he's hitting golf balls at Bobby Jones on the mats on a Monday because Peachtree was closed, and literally right next to him was one of the kids from the other side of the golf course who lived in the condos, who was there in a tank top, some basketball shorts, some tennis shoes, and the guy who looked exactly like you expect a guy, buttoned down, buttoned up, pressed, everything, right? He helped the kid out with a swing, showed him his grip. It was remarkable. And I think anyway, that was kind of the aha moment that the staff there in Atlanta realized, like, we play different golf courses. We expect different experiences. Some of us are fortunate enough to be able to afford certain experiences. Some of us less fortunate, etc. But when it all comes down to it, you're still playing the same game. And that commonality is more inherent and transcends socioeconomic differences and stereotypes and all that stuff than I think most people give credit. I love Caddyshack. I absolutely love it. The Painting is down here. One of the best movies. Actually used to make my staff all watch it. But anyway, but I think that the tongue-in-cheek way that it created that kind of, oh my God, no, the hired help, the caddies and all that stuff, while that does technically exist, at the end of the day, I don't think the reality of it exists as much as people realize. So when you give someone a place like this where everyone is essentially the same, and the commonality of it, and you can experience the game how you're used to and accustomed doing it, and just because the group in front of you has speakers and the group behind you has carts, and the group's two holes in front of you might have caddies, you're still playing the same game. You're playing the same golf course. Somebody's over on the par three, walking barefoot playing a golf course, which for some reason seems to be a thing. Most people, if you go over to the par three, it's everyone leaves their bags and their shoes on the first tee. It's just like it's a thing. They want to get one of these little drinks, and they want to play the par three barefoot, knock yourselves out. And then, right next to them on the golf course is someone that just, they're down here on a golf trip that just played us and Seminole and Pine Tree, and they're here for a completely different reason. But they can coexist. They all love golf. We all love golf. It means different things to each of us, but at the same time, we love it equally. And everyone just kind of coexists and they get along. So we understand that. The culture of the people here understand that, and because of that, that's just that when you come here, you realize that no one is on, including the staff, is on pins and needles. Oh God, I'm gonna f up and say something wrong or whatever like that, or I'm gonna look wrong, I'm gonna look out of place. I'm walking around here with t-shirts and shorts and stuff on, so everyone else can do that as well too. So I think that's it. I think it's just the people understanding that look, we have more in common than we don't. So. And then we have the game in common. From that point on, the rest of it just happens. It's organic.
It's such a powerful thought, and I think most of us will think, okay, I'll just use your great example. The kid in the tank top and the basketball. That there's something really valuable for him getting into golf, and that gentleman, Augusta National. What opportunities could he open up for that kid? Just let's say it went from there, and everyone thinks about it that way, and it's very real. I mean, we know the park is a direct result of that, right? With the charitable fundraising and all the people that can really drive something, with their stature and their place in life. But I also see it the other way, where that kid reminds, the guy that's played all the top 100s, that has had this remarkable golf life already, reminds him what the fundamental thing is about the game that can be enjoyed. And it actually starts to change the culture at the very top of the level, because these guys go from the park and go, well, I was in a much better mood at Bobby Jones, or I was in a much better mood, or maybe I'm a little bit more appreciative of some of these things, and or maybe we don't need so much of that, and it starts to work together. And so I've seen time and time again a lot of people that I call friends who are at some of the best clubs and have lived the best golf lives. You just see something light up in them when they get to a place like yours, like Bobby Jones, like the others, because I think what's happening is they're just reminding themselves what's fundamentally really good about this game.
Yep, 100%. I get to see it and experience it. Look, there's people who I'm working with. I won't say who or where because I don't want to get them in trouble at their clubs, but they know that it's going to be different when they come to the park, and not in a bad way. It's going to be more relaxed. They look for that kind of relaxed experience. I jokingly will talk about it again. I was like, everybody likes to go and have a good steak, but man, you can't beat a really good hamburger either.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little ketchup on your shirt. Who cares? Nobody's going to make fun of you or anything like that. So, there's a time and place for everything. And again, as long as you're not surprised, people come here and immediately realize they can be themselves, whatever that is, buttoned up, collared, everything, whatever. We're cool with that. Totally cool with that. But at the same time, somebody was going to come here relaxed. They didn't expect to play today. They were at work. They worked late. They just threw on a t-shirt at the golf shop and then went out and played. Like that's also equally fine too. So,
well, we'll start winding down, Brian. I could keep going with you, man, for on so many different subtopics within this. But if this might be a tough one to answer, but I think with so many, your guys' national attention, has really put the spotlight on the model. And I think you answered a lot of my questions already, but things from the event you mentioned, first of the year, the match prior, PGA Works, Steph Curry's underrated tour. You guys have got this spotlight, and I think you've used it well, because it's made a lot of people like me curious about what is it going on. Like, this is really impressive, and I'm just curious for those of us that want to copy, build our own playbooks, like we said earlier. We want to. What does the fake version look like? Like, what is the version that maybe borrows the idea or the aesthetic of it, and it misses the point? Because I'm feeling you guys don't miss the point, but sometimes there's probably a path that could take people down a way that where they miss it. So what's the version to avoid, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I don't know that you, if I understand the question, I don't know that you can see that from the surface or from the outside. The imposters, I guess, so to speak, if that's what you're asking, you'll see it from the inside eventually. They can fake it for a while, but I mentioned sustainability. Look, sustainability, it's funny that something can be so mission driven, and then you look at a P&L and you're like, wow, there's people who are trying to influence the P&L that aren't producing this. I think I think that's a lesson to be learned or can be taught in all industries. It's not just golf. So, I think that the imposters are the ones that just don't pass the test of time. They change, their identities change, and you can see and feel that when you go to places. And that's not to say that you eventually see that or feel that when you go to the to Bobby Jones or to the park one day. I definitely don't suspect it, but times change and things change with respect to everywhere. So yeah, the imposters are the ones that are faking it. They could probably put on a good show for a little while, but ultimately down the road you see it happen. The other ones I think are the ones that never get to the point where they open. It's like, everyone has their challenges. I get it. And a lot of times it's money. Sometimes it's the municipals not agreeing or things like that. I said, but I think we opened up Bobby Jones Golf Course in 10 months, and I think this place opened in 14 months. So, you sometimes you just rip the Band-Aid off, open it, and see how it goes. It seems like some of the others just kind of drag their feet and never really get to the point where they open or fully open for whatever reason. So, maybe there's other things that are leading to those examples that may or may not be for the right reason or whatnot. So, I don't necessarily think that those that aren't successful were necessarily or fake or didn't do it right. It's not easy and it's not going to work everywhere. But I think if you're true to the identity and you understand where you're at, where you're coming from, that yeah, you can replicate this at an appropriate level or appropriate scale anywhere you want to do it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Brian. That so many, call them imposters if you want, take like say open golf. They take that. Oh, that's popular. Like that'll get people in and that, but actually on the grounds they don't know what that means. And I think that's just a testament to you all at the park. Like you have that vision, you obviously work really, really hard to execute it, and clearly you hire people and help bring in people that are going to like fit that vision and make it work, because without you all doing it, then it doesn't get executed, and then you're just an imposter that have open golf on the scorecard but doesn't actually have it on the grounds. All right, we've done certainly a lot of, I mean, I love being there once. I love the park. Being now on this interview, I have goosebumps about 12 different times in terms of what you're doing, the things you're saying. But I want to put you on the spot because you had a beautiful quote earlier. Traditions are something 40 years from now someone will look back on, and then you can say we have a tradition. Well, you're clearly not someone that sleeps or rests with where you're at. So when you look at the park right now and you say, okay, we do a lot of great things, is there one thing you're hoping you do better in the next couple of years that you want to target with the park and really work on, if that's with the staff, with something going on property? Is there something right now you're focused on that keeps you, at midnight staring at the ceiling like, hey, we need to do this better?
Yeah, I think there's two things, neither of which because I don't think we're successful in either, but just wondering, it's like kind of like I think I was once taught it's easier to beat a lead horse than it is a trailing horse in a race. I mentioned culture. I was like, we're not by accident, but maybe a little bit by, I don't know. The culture here is different. It's different than anything I've been a part of. There's over 200 people here on our team, 230 in season when all the teachers are here with the program. Seeing just how far we can push it. I mean, it's great now. By no means you guys have experienced it, but really seeing like, man, can a little golf course, I say little, can a singular golf course really rival the places that you think of when you think of work culture, right? The Disney Worlds, the Chick-fil-A's, the things like that. Can we do that? Can we really push that? And I think we can. I think we have the right people and team in place, top to bottom. our foundation, our board, they challenge us to think this way, which is unique. They don't challenge us to in ways you might think a foundation or others would. The other one is one that is just getting the word out about the path and what we're doing. That's really not even related to the golf course. It's happening at the golf course. I mentioned if you go to our website and you check out the path and you look at the video that we just produced telling you what the path is, if you look at our impact reports, if you look at the work that's now actually showing results in the local schools receiving, for the first time ever in some cases, grades of A or B for an entire school at a time where you're seeing schools go backwards. These schools are going forwards, and they're doing it from the bottom up, not the top down, which means the kids that we are attracting and that we are working with are the kids who are growing and gaining attraction. They're the past that we are changing, and they're the students that are changing those schools. That's a message that, I think we do a really, really good job telling, but unfortunately not everyone wants to hear it. So if there's a way we can really get people to kind of like take note of it and then find them on that personal level, that's like, oh wow, this is possible. We're not asking you to come out and pay $400 to play a round of golf because 50 of it's going to go to the path. That's not the case. It's, we're profitable, and then we can make the path successful. But we also have a mechanism in place to make the path successful so the golf course can operate on its own completely separately from that. So it's not going through the grocery store and rounding up pennies on transactions. That's not what we're here to do. It's just truly to understand that we're creating an environment and a vehicle that just so happens to be a world-class golf course that is really truly impacting and changing lives. So yeah, if people know us not because of the golf course in 10 years, but actually know us because of the path, wow, mission accomplished.
That's well said. And we're going to link to that specific link for the path and what you guys are doing there, Brian, because, as a golfer, Professor, you said it, I get goosebumps thinking about this environment that I want to be a part of, that I want other golfers to be a part of. But when as a parent, when I see what you guys are doing with these kids, and I did watch the main video there on the webpage, which we'll include in the show notes, I got chills as well, just because I'm like, man, gosh, could my community use something like this? Golf aside, could we use something like that? Heck yeah. So bravo to all you guys, man. And the fact that can't be understated too, the sustainability factor, that it's not, oh, hey, we charge X amount because it goes to that's a hard thing to keep going. I've seen it fail time and time again. Yeah, even some stuff I've tried, making it its own focus, its own piece. That is really admirable. And I see why it's working. So this has been awesome, Brian. And we'll let you go. I know I could keep going. I have a bunch more I didn't get to, but Professor, you got anything else for our man here?
No, but we're gonna definitely have Brian back on in the future. Once we're gonna get you down there to play and check out the place.
Well, I was going to say, I think after this, there's very little chance. It's better than 45%, Professor, that I'm getting to the park within the next winter. Will pass. I got to get down there because it's just too much stuff that I really, have modeled my own life around, that I just want to be a part of places like this. So, Brian, thanks for everything you're doing for us.
Yep, come down here and we'll make sure we'll get you a picture with the mascot in season. So.
I'll try to break the professor's merchandise record he set last time he visited with you guys, because that logo is fire. Is there a story behind the logo? Maybe I got one more question. Is there anything behind it?
Yeah, we were in, I want to call it jokingly, logo purgatory, as we call it, even before we opened. The parrot didn't exist when we opened day one. But kudos to everybody involved, from the foundation to even the team, myself, that we realized that we needed something special, and we weren't there yet. So I had input from several of the voices, so to speak, as to what it needed to have, and had a little bit to do actually with sketching this myself, just putting everybody's ideas together in a draft that then went to a company to kind of formalize it anyway. But yeah, it was by accident, so to speak, but it was definitely not without a lot of trouble getting to, and then it took off, like you guys have seen. I mean, we're 4 years old almost, and you see this thing. I just saw it on the World Series of Poker. A friend of mine just sent me a picture of it. We see parrots everywhere. They're all over the place. We hear about it from airports, from place to place, and then the sales back it up. I mean, how many places renovate their golf shop
after 2 years after opening to expand it just to keep up with sales. So yeah, the logo. Look, hey, don't apologize to anybody if you come in here and you buy something because everyone else has, and it's still growing.
Well, and it definitely challenged the theory of many of the logo bingo friends of mine, which is if you can't have it, it has value. So it's that much more special. I think
hear you.
when you're supporting something that you care about and it always reminds you of just a special experience and what it really represents. I'll take that every day against, the very few little logos you see out there. But
Yep.
Well, Brian. Thank you for being with us again, man. This
Appreciate
has
you
been
guys. Been a lot
really
of fun.
illuminating, really fun. Looking forward to visiting the park. And if for our listeners, thank you guys. Thanks for being a part of the show. If you're interested in everything that we talked about here, we'll put contact information for the park and the links in the show notes, as I mentioned. If you're not a subscriber of our show and you found us, please subscribe. Join the professor and I. We do these chats weekly, bi-weekly. If you like this particular one, I think you're really going to like what we got coming up with the professor and I've been in the lab cooking, the test lab, as our guest said today. Remember to like, rate, review the show. That always goes away to help us and making this mission for both the Bag Drop New Club, making golf more meaningful for all of us. Professor, I'll catch you on the next one.